Okay, so Josh over here, his hips are what we call in the medical industry. What's the term? Fucked. That's what they are. So Josh, we are going to test your mobility first. We're going to do this every week of this rehab program to make sure that we're going in the right direction. So what I want you to do from this position right here is go ahead and put your feet together and put your knees as low to the ground as you can without having to flex it. So just let them just kind of sit there. Okay. So already I can tell what it looks like is a little bit more mobility on the right side than the left side. And yeah, that's a huge difference. So you guys see this? I put my thumb underneath here. There's like 3 inches of space there. Whereas when I put it underneath here, it's pretty much touching or damn near. So this is really common for a lot of people with messed up hips. And you can even probably see if I move over here, okay, as he's laying down, you can see the spine is crooked from the front. You can see it kind of goes like this, like that. And what that's doing is it's allowing more external rotation out of that right hip than the left hip. So most people would solve this simply by stretching, but that's only a temporary solution. The reason why is because after you stretch the muscle out to a certain length, right? That's just passive tension. That's what it's called. We're putting passive tension on the muscle. That doesn't change the resting muscle tone. Okay, that might change the length of the muscle, but it doesn't change the resting muscle tone. Resting muscle tone is the way a muscle kind of sits in a natural kind of neutral position, and that's a lot neurological, so we need to do some strength work for this stuff. But it's not normal strength work. The strength work that we're doing is a combination of mobility and strength called PNF, okay, post neuromuscular facilitation. So all that means is that in the act of stretching, I'm going to have Josh contract his muscles as hard as he can in that stretch position to then allow me to stretch him out further after that contraction occurs. So it's very simple when I demonstrate it here. You guys will see real quick. So Josh, all we're going to do for this one is I'm going to push your knees downward. And what I want you to make sure you do is keep your abs flexed so that your low back stays pressed and flat against the ground right there, and try to relax the hips as much as possible, okay? So we're not going to go too far at first because he's going to be a little bit locked up at first. And I'm just going to slowly push his knees down until either I feel too much resistance or he tells me that something's uncomfortable, okay? So Josh, if that pain goes above a 2, you let me know. Okay, right there. Now we're going to hold this for about 20 seconds, and I'm going to encourage Josh to just relax as much as he can here with his hips in this position. He's going to remain mindful of keeping his low back flat on the ground, because when you arch, you artificially give your, I shouldn't say artificially, but when you arch, you're in a different position with your pelvis, and that allows for more external rotation than you would otherwise have. So we're not going to let him do that. We're just going to keep his back flat. About 5 more seconds here. And now this is where the fun begins. So now what Josh is going to do is he's going to try to push against my hands and close his knees together. Yep. And he's going to start off flexing, moderately hard, and then he's going to ramp it up until he's going max effort. And my goal is just to hold him in place for a while, okay? And then after about 10 seconds, I'm going to let him win. He's going to keep on flexing as hard as he can, and I'm going to let him win slowly. It's almost like doing a rep of a weightlifting exercise. Now he's going to keep flexing as hard as he can, and I'm going to win now. Yep. And what you'll notice now is on the way back down, Josh, go ahead and relax. Now he's got a lot more mobility there. It's actually kind of crazy. You guys see that? The amount that I'm able to open his hips now is like almost double what he was able to do before. And that's because the contraction of that muscle in that position and then going through that slight range of motion right there, that communicates with his nervous system, that communicates with his brain, and it's just letting the brain know, like, this is okay. We're safe in this position, we can just hang out. So now that I've given him access to that range, we're gonna use it. So now he's gonna push together again. Yep. For about 10 seconds. And relax. Now we're just gonna hang out here for a little bit. About 10 more seconds here. The exact time doesn't matter that much. A good rule of thumb though is 20 seconds passive, 10 seconds active, and then you can repeat that, rinse, repeat as many times as necessary. But keep in mind that stretching in and of itself is a stimulus and will incur muscle fatigue and a degree of muscle damage depending on the intensity of the stretch. So it's important to program this stuff intelligently and to do everything with purpose, because you don't want to accumulate junk volume. You don't want to just get really tired and damage the muscle without actually doing anything favorable to it. So now what Josh is going to do is he's going to turn onto his stomach, and we're going to make use of that range a little bit more. So what he's going to do here now is he's going to keep this hip right here extended, and he's going to keep this leg straight, and then what he's going to do is put his ankle over here and make a figure four with his legs. So this foot will come up and he'll go like this, and you guys can see his shape is now in a figure four. Now you guys see as soon as he did that, that left hip rose straight up, right? That's because it's his back trying to give his hip socket a little bit more room to externally rotate. And so what we want to do is get him out of that pattern, because that's what's happening on a daily basis. Whenever he's sitting, standing, or walking, his spine is naturally kind of turned like this. So what we want to do is relax the hip as much as possible and set that pelvis in more of a neutral position. And you see as I do that, his foot's coming up this way because his leg's trying to internally rotate again. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, my job here is to keep his pelvis in that neutral position with one hand here, okay, while I gently push down on this foot here to give him that external rotation again. Right, and we're just going to hang out here for a little while. Telling the brain, hey, it's okay to access this position. We're not in any danger. There's no impending loading happening right now. We're not going to get sudden hip Ebola. We're going to be okay. About 5 more seconds here. Now what Josh is going to do, so what we did before was we closed the legs. We went from external rotation and abduction to internal rotation and adduction. Now what we're going to do is we're going to make use of that space we created by having him try to externally rotate on his own. So Josh, I'm going to keep your pelvis here. I'm going to keep your foot down here, and I need you to try to lift that left knee off the ground. This is a lot more than he was able to actually do last time. We barely got the knee off the ground. This is pretty good. You guys see why this is necessary for me to be here holding the foot and the pelvis down? Because otherwise he would just simply cheat by rotating his pelvis and it wouldn't do anything. It wouldn't create any space. He's going to keep flexing for about 10 seconds. 3, 2, 1, and now relax. Good. We're going to hold him here again. As you can see, I take my hand off here, and his foot is still a little, you can leave it there. His foot is still a little bit connected to his leg, a lot more than it was before. Again, we created that space, and then we made him flex so that his brain can receive the signal that we're okay to actually use that range of motion. Now, since this is such a shortened position, Josh is going to be able to do this without incurring very much fatigue or really any muscle damage at all. So I'm going to have him do another quote-unquote set here by flexing again. Go ahead. Try to lift that knee off the ground. Yes, sir. Yup. This may not look hard, but this is fucking brutal, guys. Five, 4, 3, 2, and in one, and go ahead and relax. Perfect. We're gonna do the same thing on the other side after he's had a chance to catch his breath and recover. How you feeling?
Painful.
Yep, that's the idea. So if you're not feeling a little bit of discomfort on this, you're doing it wrong. However, there is a difference between discomfort and, I guess, pain with a capital P. Okay? What we want is, on a scale of 1 to 10, I don't want Josh feeling pain in his joints that exceeds like a 2 or a 3 at the very, very most. Okay, so all that discomfort should be mostly just like maybe a burning sensation, and then obviously you're gonna be breathing hard. There's gonna be a psychological aspect of it too, but it shouldn't feel like the joint is being harmed, if that makes sense, okay? All right, so he's got his other foot now. See how when he just relaxes here, he's able to just keep his foot down here while his pelvis stays pretty much neutral? Again, that's a symptom of that same thing we're talking about here. And so what I'm not going to do is press directly down on his pelvis here because he doesn't need it on that side. What I'm going to do is try to align the spine while he does that, because that's the main thing that's going to be going on here. His spine is going like this when he does that, so all I'm going to do is just push it a little bit right here, okay? Now, you see how that immediately made it harder? His knee descended a little bit, so that's what we're going for. That's how we know we're in the right direction. Okay, I'm going to hold his foot down here again, and then he's going to go ahead and try to lift that leg. Yep. Just keep that knee up as high as you can. This is good. Now, the reason why I have his foot behind his other leg like this, guys, is because as he lifts his knee, he's going to be pushing his foot into the back of his left knee. And that's a good thing right here, because what we're doing right now is abduction, meaning the hips are separating from each other. They're moving away from the midline of the body. But he's also simultaneously using this foot to be able to externally rotate those hips as well, and to be able to push the tibia inward. Okay, that's very important. Very, very important here. What we are looking for is external rotation plus abduction. And relax. Good. So it's important to understand the different functions of a ball and socket joint like the hip. It's just like the shoulder, okay? They abduct, meaning they open up from the midline of the body. They adduct, meaning they go towards the midline of the body. They flex, meaning will be able to lift his foot up in front. They extend, which is pushing your foot behind you. But what they also do is they internally and externally rotate to a large degree, and that's what separates them from the joints like the elbows and knees. There's so much more rotation capabilities that the hips have the ability to do. And so what that means is that you end up getting a larger amount of movement combinations that can happen, which makes the hip a little bit more complicated to deal with than the knee or the elbow, because what are we dealing with? Are we dealing with abduction plus internal rotation? That can be a problem in and of itself. Are we dealing with abduction plus external rotation? Adduction plus external rotation? Internal rotation? Yada, 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 so on and so forth. Every single angle that he puts his hip into is going to impact the motions that he does. All those 6 functions I just went over, they all work together in combination to produce unique movements and allow you to basically move the foot or knee wherever you want to in space. It's a very complicated joint, which makes it really, really shitty, but that's also why we're capable of the movements that we're able to do. Go ahead and flex again. Relax. Good. So he's just going to take a breather there, and then he's going to sit up. When he's ready, we're just going to be in that seated position again. And what he's going to do is put his legs out in front, and then he's going to take one, I don't care which one to start, and he's just going to put it over the other, just like that. And then what we're going to do is just put it right there. Okay, so what we just did was abduction plus external rotation. But now what we want is abduction plus internal rotation, okay? Because he's going to be mostly lacking there in that area, okay? Especially when it comes to the injured side, it's probably going to lack internal rotation, whereas the non-injured side is probably going to lack external rotation. And that is simply because as you start to shift your daily activities to bias one side or the other side has to do funky things to compensate for it. So when he was just sitting up like this, see it, Brandon? When he's just sitting up like this, and he's got his knees like that, his non-injured hip is able to externally rotate, is able to adduct and externally rotate more because those actions are going together. But now when we add in the internal rotation to the abduction, you're gonna see it has a different effect. Okay, so what Josh is going to do now in order to make that happen is he's going to use this leg right here to give himself something to push on with this foot. But I'm going to also put my hand on his knee right here, and he's going to have to internally rotate his hip while he's trying to push the hips outward at the same time. Okay, so Josh, when you're ready, go ahead and flex. So I'm having him start off with the flexing and not the stretching, and you'll see why in a second. Good. He's also going to maintain a nice tall posture, but he's not going to stick his ribs up. He's actually going to point his ribs down while he stays as tall as possible, and he's going to keep his abs flexed. The reason why I had him start flexing like this is because this is more complicated, and I want all of the structure to be rigid for the most part, but now he is specifically going to relax his hip while keeping his abs and his low back turned on. Yep, just go ahead and relax that hip all the way, but go ahead and try and keep that foot on the floor. So we're just going to the point where his foot's going to start to lift off, at which point I'll hold it down right here. And we're going to pull the hip not only down, but also away from the joint, just like this. So we get a little bit of traction along with that rotation. Now what he's going to do is from this position, he's going to flex, and he's going to start small and work up. Yep. There's a lot of tension right here. He's pushing that foot hard into his knee. And after a little bit, I'm gonna let him win. He's gonna keep going as hard as he can. Yep. Try to bring that knee all the way over. All the way over. Yep. And then I'm gonna start winning. Yep. Don't wanna go until he cramps. This is long enough. Now he's going to relax again. Yes. Very nice. And relax. Good. So if you guys are dealing with hip pain, you don't want to think about it in terms of trying to isolate a muscle where that pain is coming from. Okay, the hip is very complex, like I said before. You got all these little muscles working together to produce these actions. And so what you really want to think about it is in terms of function. You want to figure out what function of the hip is lacking and try to address it that way. And by doing that, you're going to involve all of the relevant muscle groups that are involved in that action. The problem with that, and this is why a lot of people kind of get away from that line of thinking, is that if you don't have a second person to help create that stability, then you're going to start cheating and using muscles you're not supposed to. Okay, does that make sense? That's why when you're doing stuff like this, it is invaluable to have somebody who's actually working with you and knows how to manipulate your joints and your body to put you in positions where you can't cheat. That makes this exercise much more stable, and that literally is going to allow your brain to send signals to the muscle that it wants to activate that it wouldn't otherwise be able to do because it's not used to it, it's not trained to do that. The neurons are not connected the way we want. So this is what we're doing here. That's the whole point of this. That's why it's post-neuromuscular facilitation and not just post-muscular facilitation. Okay? So it's going to be the same thing on this side. We're going to keep his foot down here, and we're just going to relax the hip. and then I'm gonna have him flex. Go ahead. Good. And again, he's gonna make sure to stay nice and tall. He's gonna keep his ribs pointed towards his pelvis, and he's gonna use this foot to push against his outer knee at the same time that he closes this left knee. Good, now I'm gonna start to win. Now he's gonna start to win. He's gonna keep going. Yep, and it's totally cool for him to put his hand there like that. Anything that increases stability is a good thing. And he's gonna keep flexing, and I'm gonna win now. This part is hell for him. Perfect, and we're gonna relax now. Try to keep your spine straight. Yep, there you go. Good. And relax. Perfect. So we got one more for today, okay? You don't want to overdo it. So Josh has 2 days specifically for his hip, and he has another day for his shoulders and his neck. So what we're going to do now is we're going to address the psoas complex of the hip, okay? So just now what we were dealing with was the glutes and the adductor magnus, okay? So you can break down the hips as far as front to back into 3 major sections, okay? We have the psoas complex, which is the psoas, which is your hip flexor, that connects to your low back, and how it interacts with the quadricep muscle called the rectus femoris. Okay, that's what we're about to address in a second. What we just did was the second part of that 3-part complex you can think about, okay, where we addressed the adductor and the glutes and how those are interacting with each other. So we got the psoas in front, we got the adductors in the middle, and then we got the glutes in the back, and all 3 of those muscle groups kind of work together to produce different actions at the hip. What he was just doing, that abduction plus the external rotation, okay, that was all glute right there, okay, with a little bit of adductor. And then what he just did there, that was mostly adductor with a little bit of glute, okay? So now, what we're going to do is have him get on his knees. He's going to keep his glutes, he's gonna go like this and keep his glutes as pressed forward as he can, while not arching his back. So you guys might have a problem with this too. If I tell you to squeeze your glutes and keep your hips extended, you might end up doing something like this. That's adding to the problem right there, okay? We're creating space where we actually don't need it. What we want to do is keep that spine in a nice neutral position while those hips stay as far forward as possible, okay? Now what Josh is going to do is he's going to lean all the way back, and he's actually strong enough to do this by himself already, so I don't really need to help him there. Yep, and then he's just gonna hang out and try to relax as much as he can. I'll actually go over here to help him relax, and then we'll see if we can get all the way down, just chilling, okay? Try to relax as much as you possibly can, Josh, I got you. Good. Good. You're arching your back though, try to keep that rounded. There you go, yep, and that makes it a little bit harder, but that makes it more effective. The psoas has the best leverage when the back is extended, in other words, arched. So what we're actually doing is we're intentionally taking away leverage from the psoas because we're trying to stretch it. We're trying to change its leverages so that it can be a little bit more in favor of being able to work while the spine is flexed, okay? So it's not going to completely change the leverages, but it's going to help a little bit. Good, now what Josh is going to do is he's going to just flex his quads until he's all the way back up in that kneeling position. Yep. Yep. Perfect. He's gonna relax, and then we're gonna do that again. Okay. Whenever you're ready. Yep. Yes. You're doing good. Relax as much as you can. And now he's gonna flex and come back up again. Yes, sir. Perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. That's all for the day. 3 different movements right there. It's about intensity, okay? It's not about the amount that you do. No matter what you're doing, anything in life, but especially things that involve exercise and involve changing the body, changing the muscle, what we want to focus on is quality over quantity. And quality is an intense stimulus that is specific to the task that we're trying to get done. So that's all for today. Stay tuned for the next one. I'm going to be going over hip 2 and shoulders and neck with you guys as well.